So I was trying to think of a clever opening to do with Star Wars and The Mandalorian, since that's what I'm going to be talking about, but I got nothing. So we're just going to kick right into it. I wanted to talk about the first 4 episodes of the Disney Plus show called Disney Gallery Star Wars The Mandalorian. So this series premiered on Disney Plus on Star Wars Day, May the 4th be with you, May 4th, 2020. It's an 8-episode docuseries about the making of The Mandalorian, the hit runaway success of Disney Plus. Some people are calling the savior of Star Wars. I'm not going to talk about that on this one. So the first 4 episodes, episode 1 is titled Directing, where you get to meet all the directors. And what I really like about it is that you get to see their face, see their mannerisms, be able to kind of put a person to just the name and the behind the scenes things. So the name of the directors, at least the ones we've gone on this one, is Dave Filoni, Rick, excuse me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, Famuyima, Deborah Chow, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Taika Waititi, which for those who didn't know, is the voice of IG-11 on the series, which is pretty neat. It'd be cool if all the different directors have different cameos and things, and I'm pretty sure in the actual Disney Plus they do all kind of make a small cameo, but the biggest note is Taika Waititi doing the voice of IG-88. All right, so then the next episode is called Legacy, and this one is Dave Filoni kind of this episode talks about the history of like the Star Wars, how it's this big legacy, all the different things, what it means to people, and nice kind of look back. Something that I really liked about that episode is that, as I was starting to say before, is that Dave Filoni gives this really amazing speech at the end of the episode, talking about what Star Wars is, how it's kind of for kids, but it's also about family, about resurrection, about fathers and sons, and it really gets to the heart of Star Wars. And I think that's the reason that Clone Wars, Rebels, Resistance 2, and obviously especially The Mandalorian is such hitting on to people and such a great legacy to Star Wars, and really touches people the way that the original movies did, because he knows what it really was kind of before all the other politics and things get involved. Right? Also something that's kind of nice, which ties back to the other episode, I mentioned Bryce Dallas Howard. For those who don't know, and I admit I had to go ahead and Google it, she is Ron Howard's daughter. She's also the main female protagonist, the main actress in the new Jurassic World series, or the new Jurassic World movies. And so Bryce told this really nice anecdote about how she remembers her father, Ron Howard, having meetings with all these famous directors, such as George Lucas, where she would be kind of in the room playing or even sitting in her dad's lap, and so she remembers falling asleep, hearing her dad, George Lucas, all talking about movies and Star Wars and different things. So if you can talk about legacy, like she is definitely legacy, and with Ron Howard kind of coming to try to save Solo, which again is a whole other thing I won't get into. Ron Howard coming to save Solo, she is a legacy director now. Her dad directed Solo, and she's doing episodes on The Mandalorian. I thought that was a nice little thing on that one. So then the next episode, number 3, is entitled Cast, and we get to see and have a very nice round table with Pedro Pascal, Gina Carano, and Carl Weather. So that was very nice. Something I did kind of note, they didn't talk about how Pedro Pascal came in kind of after the production already started, things were already being done. They did mention that there were other people in the Mandalorian suit doing some of the action, doing some of the scenes, but they didn't, and they threw a nice, threw a bone to them. I don't know if that's the best analogy, but they did mention and talk about how great those actors were and how much they physically presented, and that Pedro Pascal really learned a lot from them and tried to keep some continuity with the way the character was being portrayed, which I says is a great indication of what a strong actor Pedro is. There's also an interesting anecdote on that as well, is that they talked about how, which I didn't know about this, he had gotten into a little, fell down and hurt himself, I think is what it was, but he cut his nose. And in that the big scene in the very last episode, where you get to, I guess I should put a spoiler warning in on that. Spoiler, that he takes off the helmet in the last episode of season 1. And for that scene, he had to be all bloodied up and hurt. And when he was walking out of his makeup trailer, he actually fell down and got hurt, is what the anecdote was. And he cut his nose, and like the paramedics, and they had to take him to the ER and things, and they couldn't tell what was fake blood and what was real blood. But then, of course, he said he came back at the end of after getting stitched up, he got like, he said how many? He said, it sounded like a lot. I don't remember now. I didn't note it. How many stitches he got. And that, he came back to the set and they finished up the scene and still did everything with it. And they're like, oh, you're such a trooper. And he laughed it off, saying that, well, there's people there for hours working their butts off. I'm not going to, let a little fall and cut on my nose stop me from finishing this, which is, again, makes me like Pedro a bit more. I didn't really know anything about him beforehand. So this is very cool. All right, so episode 4 is technology, and this one talks about, obviously, the technology used in The Mandalorian, but the one piece that they really kind of focus on, which I thought was pretty amazing. I come from a little bit of a film background. I had hoped to get into film, but that's neither here nor there. They're talking about they have these projection screen, a studio space with projection screens all around, or at least almost all around, as well as on the roof and overhead, so they could be projecting and having the scenes or the backgrounds that they want on there. They could put a background for anything, or what they were saying is they were building like half of a spaceship and then had the other half on the screen. A forced perspective type of thing, obviously, used in theme parks and different stuff, as old as movies doing forced perspective. But this is the next level of that, having the projected onto the screens. And so that way they have the full control over the weather and the lighting and other things. And it really takes it to the next level, I would think, filmmaking to the next level. Like I said, started doing it in different movies that they had worked on, that Favreau had worked on, such as, I believe he had said some of the Marvel movies and The Lion King. So he had worked on it. He'd been kind of getting there, and George Lucas was very familiar with this because he had gotten with George Lucas. And for a lot of people know, George Lucas has always said Star Wars is supposed to always push the boundaries of technology, which he did to, various degrees of success with the prequels, depending on how you like the prequels or not. But this, I think, really kind of could be considered as a game changer for it, at least what it looked like to me. That you could put anything on there and do so much in-camera effects. And also, of course, from the actors, which went back to the previous episode of The Cast, where the actors were talking about this technology and saying how you're not just acting against a blue screen, you actually have a background that you're doing on this. So that is amazing technology. And if you like how movies are made, technology and different things like that, you will, really like this episode, and you can see the excitement that they have in it to do that, because it brings a whole nother level to the movie making experience for it. So that's the first 4 episodes of the 8-episode docu-series on Disney Plus called Disney Gallery Star Wars: The Mandalorian. I look forward to watching the next ones. Overall, I thought this was a very good and fun, interesting first 4 episodes of this docu-series. I was a little leery to watch it because I didn't want to just see kind of like a generic behind the scenes, some, PA walking around with a camcorder, kind of like seeing people like just messing around on the set. That only has a limited amount of interest to me. But this one was a lot more round table. They were kind of discussing it more. They did obviously have shots of them on the set and things like that here and there, but it really wasn't about that. This was a lot more, it felt more intentional and I don't want to say more documentary, because that's not really, but it was more interesting, I thought. And like I mentioned earlier, having a little bit of a film background, I thought that it kind of stepping away from that kind of old traditional kind of worn out, really, in my opinion, idea of just somebody kind of following people around on the set. At this one, they got to sit down and really talk about things and reminisce and be in a more comfortable setting. It felt more substantial to me. And I really like that, and I'm interested to see what they come up with in the next 4 episodes, which I do not have a list of, but I'm going to go ahead and watch those, and I'm going to put a part 2 to this video of the docuseries on Disney+. Until next time, remember to like, subscribe, follow, check that box, ring that bell, whatever it is that they're calling it, and I'll see you next time.